Okay. All right, we're back for another edition of the Three Stooges podcast. And, the Three Stooges from the old days in black and white were a goofy, unsavory lot. We're kind of a goofy, unsavory lot, but we come to you in full color and full transparency as we break down the good stuff of what's going on in high school football throughout California, big on the Sac-Joaquin section. The game balls and teams of the week and teams who have turned things around. And we'll also address issues like hazing and coaches on administrative leave and what's going on with things like that, boorish behavior from players or fans. So we're going to touch everything we can every week. We're not fanboys here. We certainly applaud the good of high school sports, but we're also going to address the issues that kind of hover about. I'm Joe Davidson, longtime with the Sacramento Bee. There's Chris Jackson of West Coast Preps and Jordan Georgeson of Gold Country Media. A proud father of two, little ones running around, taking over the house up there in Placer County. Let's get started. Chris Jackson, there's something on the table at the Sac-Joaquin section, a tweak to the high school football playoffs. What is it? And we're going to bounce around if it's a good idea, if it's a bad idea, and how it came about. So the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, their next meeting, October 8th, they are having this, I believe, in Lodi. If you go on the section website, you can actually go to meetings and then meeting notes as well, since this is all public information. But their proposed amendment to the playoffs is eliminating the bye week in the playoffs to where seeds 1 through 8 compete for 3 weeks to determine section champion and NorCal representatives from each respective division. So teams 1 through 8, it's how long that the playoffs are now in the NCS and CCS out of the Bay Area, right? But then after that, this is where it gets interesting and different too. Numbers 9 through 16 of those divisions will be regionally kind of slotted, ranked for season-ending bowl games, similar to the system as California's junior colleges, as they mentioned in this amendment. The fiscal impact, they don't really know yet, but they anticipate that there will be reduced travel costs, increased ticket sales, and all of that based on just previous data. This will push the start of the season back in coming years 1 week back, because then it will be 3 week playoffs, right? It's 4 weeks now, and there's that bye for the top 4 seeds. So then this would push it back to, I believe, align it with the North Coast section and Central Coast sections, where those teams, those schools, generally pretty much always start the season that Friday of Labor Day weekend. And here's why they are doing it as well. The data that they mentioned the last 2 seasons, seeds 9 through 12, have struggled in the playoffs. 2024, the 9 through 12 seeds went 3-25 in the first round, 0-3 in the quarterfinals. 2023, it was 5-20 in the first round for those seeds, 0-5 in the quarterfinals as well. So there are proposed changes to this. From what it sounds like, Jordan will get into it in a minute, so will you, Joe, but this could be something that takes effect really, really soon. My question for you guys, too, is I've got a few of them. How do you think the fiscal impact goes for this? What's your thoughts there? The name of it, should it be named bowl game? Should it be named something else? I know we've seen comments as well where it's deemed a participation trophy because these are teams that aren't competing for championships, but they're still competing for something. A bowl game, right, is what they're kind of deeming it too. And then I also kind of want to ask about the ticketing structure to it as well. Playoff attendance always takes a hit because students get charged. And you see student sections dwindle drastically. Just I remember that in the Bay Area. I've seen it out here too. Do they still make students pay, or if they want larger attendance, do they want students to get in free? And then also for these teams that are 9 through 16, what if some of these athletes play in winter sports and those practices start as well? Will some want to just kind of end that football season if it wasn't a good one and go into basketball, soccer, whatever it is that they compete in? So floor is your guys's, and those are some of the questions I've got.
Yeah, I've got a few thoughts on it. There's some things I like about this idea and some things I don't. The part that's hard for me, especially with eliminating these playoffs down to 8 teams, is I was my junior year of high school. I was on a 15 seed that made a run to a section semifinal in football at Del Oro, and that was a team that, even under this 12-team model, wouldn't have even made the playoffs. And that's a team that made a run. So I think that there are the people they're saying, oh, we're going to get bad teams if we allow 16 in. I don't think that's necessarily the case, but I also think there needs to be a little more selectivity of number of wins, because I believe it was last year Calaveras went 9-1 and ended up getting a 10 seed and having to go to Wheatland. I think it won that game, but if you're going 9-1, you shouldn't be worried about if you're going to make a playoff game rather than a bowl game. So I think maybe there needs to be some type of rule, like if you win 8+ games or something like that, you're guaranteed a playoff spot, no matter what your strength of schedule is. Because reality is, if you're winning 8+ games, you're probably finishing top 2 in your league. And I do think that needs to be, kind of addressed, and you get what you deserve to be a postseason team with that. I understand the argument of the participation trophy thing, but at the same time, are they considered participation trophies in college when you're playing in the 50 different bowl games they are there? I think these bowl games can be positives for these kind of middle of the road programs, in terms of maybe a team that, like, I'm looking at some of these programs, maybe like an Enox, or a Chavez or someone like that, where some of their best years they've had are getting 10 seeds in the postseason, and then the reward is you got to go play a 7 seed that's maybe like an SFL team on a down year, and then even if you win that game, you have to go play a 2 seed, and that's not going to go well. And I kind of look at it like, I'm sure those programs would much rather play a bowl game one time, have their season end on that, and maybe that's something to build on. Or when you look at programs like, I think Nevada Union a few years ago, they made a return to the playoffs after years of just bad seasons, and they went one and done in the postseason. And everyone's like, well, that's something to build on. You kind of wonder, like, well, what if they had played a bowl game instead of that? And let's say they win that game. Does that give you a little more to build on going into the next year? Does that help with continuity of these programs? So I get that. I don't know if I agree with having 16 teams qualify for the postseason and 9 through 16. I would almost rather see them do it something like, 10 teams get to go the postseason. You still have a 7-10 and 8-9 game. Because the reality is the ninth and the 10th teams are very close, usually 7 and 8. Those are usually pretty close playoff games. And I wouldn't mind keeping those games. And then maybe 11 and 12 get to play in a bowl game. And they get to play against each other in a bowl game or something like that. Maybe call them consolation bowls or something. We've got to figure out something with it, but I don't hate the idea on paper. I just feel like there needs to be some tweaks and execution with it. And then in terms of gates on it, that's another tough one. I personally think that students shouldn't be charged for playoff game. I think students should only really be charged for championship games, and I still think they should get a discounted ticket. But I think my understanding is, if this passes, that bowl games are going to be at host sites, at one of the schools. I think students should get in for free, or I think maybe schools should get to make their own determination of how they want to handle it. But I I like the idea of these bowl games on paper. I just think there need to be some tweaks so that we're not getting 2 and 3 win teams that are ranked 15th or 16th playing in bowl games.
That's good stuff, both of you guys. The one thing that's great about the Sac-Joaquin section, and people, there's all kinds of haters, and I'm using a high school term, or the bitter coach term. The haters, everybody hates us, and the CIF does not hate kids. I hear that all the time. I see it in social media. The CIF hates kids. No, they're in it for the kids. So this is an effort, and the CIF also always, the Sac-Joaquin section in particular, always listens to ideas. How can we make things better? It was from the Sac-Joaquin section office years ago under the late great Pete Sacco, the commissioner before Mike Garrison, who created the idea and got it implemented to have regional games. It used to be that the section champions, not all of them went to a NorCal regional game. It used to be voted on. People don't remember that anymore, but that was a tough situation for a team that might go 11-0 in Fresno, and they don't go to a state championship because of a 3-loss team in the Bay Area had a tougher schedule. So the point being is the section's always open to ideas and getting better. We can all agree that too many hideous blowouts happen in football playoff games. I don't know how that serves anybody. So if this is an effort to tweak and adjust and make it better, I'm all for it. I don't like the name bowl. I think Jordan touched on it. I think consolation bowl, something, because I could see, if we look ahead in our crystal ball, people on social media saying we're the Division III bowl champions. No, You didn't even make it to a section final, but people will milk that. They may hang banners, but we're the Division II bowl champions. Folsom didn't win a bowl, we won a bowl. And so it's a consolation bowl and have fun with it. Students getting in for free. I love the idea. It's not going to happen. It's all, revenue. And some people will say, oh, that's the CIF just lining its pockets. A lot of that money goes back to member schools. But it is a bummer when you see all season long, all these great rooting sections, student sections, and all of a sudden the first play round of the playoff, where's everybody? And so that's same thing in basketball. So we'll see. But we're in a society where people complain. People complain that there's too many teams in the playoffs. People will complain that these are participation bowls. People will complain that there's this or that because that's what people do. And so this is probably going to pass. I think Chris Jackson touched on that. We're all in for something that's a little bit different, a little bit better. I'd like to change the name. We don't want to say participation bowl. The Grumps will call it that. So, we'll see. We'll see. And we're talking about the CIF Sac-Joaquin section. Came up with the idea of 8-man football. It's coming up with an idea for a consolation bowl. We may just report it as a consolation bowl, right? If we report it, that'll go down as truth. So, we'll see. So, all right. So last week we talked about the Esparto Spartans of rural Yolo County over by Woodland, small school, 250 so students, and they had two games this season where they could not finish. Second quarter, players come over the sideline, tell Coach Ron Christian, Coach, we're out of gas. We can't go anymore. There's 10 guys. People on social media, they're quitters. Well, they're not quitters. I did a story in the Sacramento Bee a couple of days ago. The Esparto Spartans, small school power, just a few years ago. Sometimes we see these dips where low roster numbers. That's why there's 8-man. Should have gone into 8-man. They will probably do 8-man next season. Esparto anticipated having 25 guys. 11 of them are still academically ineligible. They're supposed to be cleared in a week or so, and that's when they feel like their season will start. And so Esparto guys, they gauge wins by first downs accomplished and touchdowns scored and finishing games. And so they're winless, but they're not losers. The coach was telling me that some of the kids will go on Sundays to help feed the needy and work in the church. That's real life. So I applaud Esparto for hanging in there. What's the alternative? Folding the team. Coach Ron Christian said that the community's been supportive, the administration's been supportive. Well, why not call up all the JV team kids? They didn't want to be called up. You got 14 freshmen. They just don't want to come up and play varsity. So I applaud schools that give it a go. It's a bit harsh when others call them quitters. What do you want to bury them 78-0 with your 50-man roster? Not going to happen. So there's a decency thing when you wave the white flag and say we can't go anymore, Mr. Official, because we're going to have injuries all over there. That's my rant. I feel better.
I mean, yeah, we were all raised. I'm sure the three of us were raised on start what you finish, right? There were a couple games that they did not finish, but lower roster numbers, any type of injury, that's almost impossible to play when you got 14 guys eligible and you're waiting on 11 others. But they are doing whatever they can to finish what they started, right? That's commendable. That's resilience. And then they're still giving back to the community, even through all just tough losses, games you're not finished. I think that says a lot too, because a lot of times I think a lot of people would fold under that. They wouldn't show up. They wouldn't want to show their face after losses. Shows that a lot of kids that were raised right. So I think that's the biggest thing. They're still competing. They're still going in there. And I bet the kids didn't want to give up on any of those games, right? When they were down to Woodland Christian and so on and so forth. But sometimes you got to do it for safety. Player safety is the biggest thing. That's the most important thing. The health of these kids is by and far not even close. The most important thing. And for them to even try to finish the season, finish more of these games, has to be commended, has to be saluted, because there are many instances in life through adversity where you won't finish the season, you won't finish a job because of just a tough day, a tough week, a tough month.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those where you applaud the coach for doing the right thing because there are coaches that would, kind of try to keep their pride there and finish these games out when they don't have the guys. And I think it's, more it's more impressive to see a coach recognize this and do what's right for the kids rather than let kind of the competitiveness take over. And I also think that's a mark of how you build a good culture in this program, because in towns like Esparto, you don't get a lot of people moving in, you don't get a lot of people moving out. A lot of these towns, these are families. And these kids that are on this team now, they have younger siblings that are going to come through the program. They have older siblings that came through the program. And for parents to see a coach that, cares about their kids like that and is willing to take the loss to sacrifice their well-being and establish something positive there moving forward, I think that's the type of thing that keeps kids in your program, keeps parents sending their kids back, and also brings new people out. So I think it's you got to tip your hat to them. That's a community that has been through a lot in these last couple months, and it's good to see them able to take the field again and kind of give these people something to root for. And some of the most fun high school football teams to watch are the ones that are rallying for something bigger than themselves, bigger than their community. And even if this season ends with Esparto for 1 or 2 wins or whatever it is, I think it's what they've done is impressive. And these are the kids that are out there trying to do something, be a part of something bigger than themselves and give back to their community. And I tip that cap to that.
Outstanding. And, kids can be cruel on campus. Oh, you guys suck and all. Well, shut up, go out and hit a sled kind of thing, right? So, we're going to shift gears here a little bit. We're going to talk about, before we hand out game balls and pick a game or two, of a big showdown this week with some insight and a predicted score. I ran something, our Sacramento Bee rankings yesterday, and I think I texted you guys kind of the funny little note as we kind of toot our horns. And I'm going to lead to Jordan on this, but hold on, let me find it here. And I was talking about the Del Oro Golden Eagles, and things, football teams have ups and downs. You're going to have, good seasons and bads. And so we're going to talk about this for a minute about teams that have bounced back. So I ran in our Sacramento Bee rankings. We have Del Oro Golden Eagles of Placer County, ranked 6. I said, remember the Grumps and Loomis who regularly went to social media pages in 2024 to demand the firing of the Golden Eagles coaches for an off year? And then my snarky response ad was, kindly take a seat and mute it. Del Oro's back in business, physical, opportunistic, and well coached. And Jordan, it's your alma mater. You're not biased here, but you just see what you see. The Del Oro Golden Eagles certainly earn our hats off for going from 2 wins last year to 4 wins, almost 5-0 this season. I think you covered the slugfest of a 12-8 loss to Oak Ridge, which is a powerhouse, as we know. But the Golden Eagles are back. It's better for the community. It's great for football. Josh Perry's done great things. What have you seen? I think that's one of our teams that will lead off on the big turnaround teams.
Yeah, I think I think if you told anyone in this area that Del Oro right now would be 4-1 with their only loss being a 4-point loss to Oak Ridge, I think everyone would have looked at you and been like, okay, sure, dude. But it's one
We're
of those,
concussed.
this is what the coaching does. And Josh Perry, I mean, the guy knows football. There's no question about that. And the people that were questioning, the heart and what kind of the knowledge of football last year. I mean, this guy played in the Super Bowl. He played for Andy Reid. You will not see a more passionate man on the sidelines than Josh Perry. I think he is every game. I feel like he looks for a loophole to see if there's a way he could still suit up out there. It's how passionate he is about this game and just giving back to these players. But I mean, what you see with what he's done with this turnaround, last year's team, it just was one of those teams where the chemistry was a little bit off and, the vibe wasn't good. And sometimes that just happens and it kind of snowballs a little bit. And I think that's what happened. But you could see this year, he really made a note of getting these guys together, making them, a unit that has chemistry and is cohesive and just works well together. And you can see it when they play. The one thing that I notice is there's no egos on this team. I mean, you'll see guys who, if you look at the passing stats, Nolan Savay has been tremendous this year in his turnaround. He gets guys where each receiver is only getting 2-3 catches a game, and they're all pumping each other up after every play. Nobody cares that they're not the ones getting in the stat sheet because it means their teammate's the one making the play. And I think that's one of the marks of the great team. And then that defense, I mean, they have looked the part so far. They're swarming to the ball, guys creating turnovers, everyone just bumping helmets, hugging each other after big plays. it's fun to watch. It feels like, old school Del Oro football, what you expect. I mean, Chris, Joe, I know. There's a special buzz around that stadium and around Loomis when that football team is good. And, we'll get into it in the previews, but the rivalry they've got this week too, in my opinion, I think that might be the most even and most fun rivalry in the area when both those teams are good. And yeah, it feels like Del Oro is kind of shown themselves as, hey, we're not going anywhere. Last year may have been a down year, but we're still a force to be reckoned with.
Jordan, I
Well,
remember
and
the
real,
scrimmage.
real quick, Chris,
Go ahead.
before we throw it to you, and the game you're talking about this week is Granite Bay, Del Oro. That was such a big rivalry game in the 2000s and afterwards, and so that's one of the games we'll certainly talk about this week. But back to you, Chris, and you're right about coaches, and he surrounds himself with good coaches, including guys like Coach Sermon and Coach Birch and Jeff Walters, and there's no ego with Josh Perry. You surround yourself with good people.
Well, now I have 2 points, Joe, talking about coaches. The first one, Jordan, I think we could say everything about the town of Loomis and the way that community rallies. Remember that scrimmage against 12 Bridges ahead of the 2024 season? That student section was filled up. I've never seen that for a scrimmage in my entire life. And they were filled up, standing the whole time, yelling, screaming, chanting. It was awesome. And then two on coaches. I know it's an era now where, especially look at the college ranks. Oh, there's the transfer portal. Oh, makes it easier to win in year one. Not necessarily when when you've got 80 new guys on a roster at that level. At the high school level, winning in year one is really, really difficult unless you've just got a lot of old guys, a lot of old superstars, right? Seniors, that type of stuff. Del Oro at a lot of spots last year was younger, right? Luke Gaylor was only a junior. Landon Perry was young. Finn Burke was only a junior. The list goes on and on. Quarterback, junior, right? So there's Brock Sherman, another junior last year. And I could probably go up and down the roster of guys that were younger and stuff like that. And to replace a senior class that had Bo Savay, Tommy Poe, Caden Pinnock, who just made a million things happen out of absolutely nothing. Down years happen. That's the way it goes. I know nobody likes to lose. That's a good thing that you don't like to lose. It's good to have those high standards as a program, as a community, but sometimes the ball doesn't bounce your way. A bad season's going to happen, but sometimes you have to lose to win again and win big again. And Del Oro's doing that.
Yeah, they really do. And other teams that have had big bounce back years, and maybe we'll go through the line one more time here. But teams do bounce back. You're going to have these up and down cycles. It's especially happens for public schools. The Grand Pacers won one game a few years ago. People were putting for sale signs in Coach Carl Reed's front lawn. And that guy was, he's an alum of the school, longtime coach, and that's how quick people will turn on you. And the Pacers, the pride of Del Paso Heights, have responded with three consecutive section championships, three consecutive NorCal championships, and two CIF state championships in the last 3 years. So you can bounce back. Other teams have done it. Oakmont Vikings of Roseville were 0-10 a couple of years ago and then played for a league championship last season. It was a great job by Coach Messina. Wheatland was 0-10 in 2022, 3 wins in 23. Last couple of years have been terrific, so you can do it. Whitney Wildcats of Placer County were 0-10 in 2018, played for a section final in 2019. There you go. More good coaching. Franklin of the Elk Grove Unified was down for several years and has bounced back. How about teams that are going the opposite way? We're seeing it now with Christian Brothers. Was Larry Morley going to be back on administrative leave? The coach there, people love him. Chris Jackson, you were at the Holy Bowl a few weeks ago and fans were chanting, "We want Larry, we want Larry." They may not win a game this season. That's been a playoff team for years, and we're in a section final against Grant not too long ago. The Sheldon Huskies of Elk Grove Unified are struggling to win a game. I ran into Jason Bumbaka yesterday, the athletic director. He's coaching because they have an administrative leave issue with their coach, and he's optimistic. He's talking about these kids are giving us everything. And nobody feels more. I mean, the coaches feel for kids who aren't winning games. That's your reward. It's hot every day in practice, and it's relenting, and the coaches are on top of you and barking at you and demanding excellence and just working hard. And your rewards are you try to have a good game. So, those kind of things are interesting. The Lincoln Zebras. I'm gonna, back to you, Jordan. The Lincoln Zebras had some lean times for the a couple years ago, but now what are they doing?
Yeah, I mean they were 1-9 a few years ago, and last season they turned it around. They were playing that 1-9 team. They were playing with essentially a bunch of sophomores on varsity and freshmen on JV. So they were just trying to keep their head above water and keep the program alive. Team went 1-9, took their lumps. I think their only win of the season came. I want to say it might have been against Wheatland. I got to go back and look at that, but I know it was just a last second. Like both those teams were like, "This is our shot to win a game this year," and Lincoln won that one. And then it turns into, last year they go 7-3 and end up in that mix in the PVL. I think they were almost every one of their league games was decided by like one score. It was just really tight league. And then this year, right now, they're 4-1, and they just took down Wheatland 33-0 Friday night. And I'll have a little more on that game when we get to game balls. But I mean, that's one where it feels like, a program that has just done a complete 180 right away. Alan Berg has done a great job with that program. And keep in mind the big thing with why these guys are clicking. All those kids that were sophomores that went 1-9 and went through those lumps, they're seniors now, and they want to make amends for that. Not to mention, a lot of these kids were on that section championship baseball team a couple months ago. They've gotten that taste of what it's like to win, and now they really want to go do it on the gridiron too.
Well done. Chris Jackson, is there a bounce back team of to be appreciated in the 209?
I mean, I've got a few just across the whole section. Joe, I know, I think you saw one of them earlier this year, or you will see them this week. I know, albeit their game Thursday, but Mira Loma of eight-man football, right? 2-8 last year, went independent. This year, 4-0, right? 220 total points. They haven't allowed a single point. They play San Juan on Thursday. Can't wait. They have a freshman, Keon Cato, who's leading the team in receiving. Their head coach, Jesse Collins, is as awesome as it gets. Coaches football, coaches basketball, and alum of the school, coached their 22-win basketball team in 2023, 2024. Dedication, that's for sure. They're starting to build that place back up. We know there's some cool history there, and obviously the great Scott Tedman went to Mira Loma too. So got to give the Matador some love there. But Pioneer of Woodlands, one of those programs, and they had some good teams in the Golden Umpire League. But then you move to the Monticello Umpire League, where there's Vacaville, Rodriguez, Vanden, 2-4 in the league last year. This year, 1-1, yes, but it was a one-score loss to Vacaville, who's won six of the last eight titles, and they just defeated the Sac High Dragons 42-40 with Joe Mendez, 159 rushing yards, three touchdowns. Davion Corley, 137 receiving wise, and two touchdowns. So they've got something special going on. You look at East Union down in Manteca, 9 losing seasons since 2011. Four of those campaigns had one win or just nothing, right? And three head coaches in 3 years. A lot of reasons for kids to quit, to go elsewhere. Now they're 6-0. They just beat Patterson, who's been to back-to-back section championship games in D4. 6-0 for the first time since '89 when their head coach was a senior and he was teammates with the principal of the school. And the principal's son is their quarterback, Kirk Simone, 17 touchdowns, 0 picks. They got a UC Davis commit. They got JP Aber, who's got a Sac State offer. They are off to a roaring start in the Valley Oak League. And don't be shocked if they make some noise, or a lot of noise, I should say, in Division 4. And let's stick on there's a lot of great turnaround stories. Let's stick on that eight-man theme. Vacaville Christian won 2 games each of the last 3 seasons, now 4-1. This is a program that's had some success in the past in 11-man. 8-3 in 2021, section semifinals in 2019. They had guys like Jerron Leaks and Kendall Allen, where 2020, unfortunately, they didn't play, but that could have been a team that won it all. Jordan, you saw Dylan Eddings, their 6'4" talent do-it-all guy, 10 of 16, 272 yards, 4 touchdowns last week, ran for another two. So there's great football here, there, everywhere, in every part of the section, at every single level. And man, those turnaround stories are some of the most awesome things to cover.
They are. I mean, because we think of, when we all hear this, oh, you guys only cover the winners. No, sometimes the best stories are the struggling teams. I think the most meaningful story I've done this fall was the Esparto Spartans, who we've talked about, low on numbers, and there's just effort and grit. And I'm so impressed in all the years I've done this. Some of the great stories are the bounce back teams, and it's proof that it can happen. And in this era of everybody transferring out, Chris, you were so right. Kids have stuck around. I remember 5 years ago, I think Pleasant Grove Eagles went 0-10 of the Oak Grove Unified, and they had 50 returning players the next year, and that was for Matt Costa. who went up to Del Campo and has now stepped away from Del Campo to tend to his ailing father. But you know, they like the coach. They came back, so those things are important. So that's Alan Berg. Hats off to him. The Wheatland coaching staff, all of those guys. It's really cool. All right, let's do. We love doing this segment. We're going to cap the show in a moment with previews of some games and a score. But let's do some game balls. I'm gonna let's do two each. One time around. Let's go with you, Jordan. Who you got? We got a caseload, van loads of game balls that we hand out every week.
Yeah, and we had one person complaining and saying our van broke down. We weren't giving him to defensive players. So how's this for a game ball right here? Okay. I'm going to give it to Brock Gaylor of Lincoln. 16 carries, 164 yards, 3 touchdowns. Wait, Jordan, that's an offensive player. That's great. Well, Brock Gaylor on defense led the team 10 total tackles, 9 of them solo tackles, 4 tackles for loss, and 3 sacks in Lincoln's 33-0 win over Wheatland. I mean, talk about a game breaker on both sides of the ball. I mean, he was tremendous offensively, but it was really second quarter he took over on offense. But the entire game on defense, he was flying around everywhere. It just felt like he was in on every tackle. And if he wasn't making the tackle, he was chasing the guy so his teammate could make a tackle. So, Brock Gaylor, you get my first game ball.
Outstanding. Give us a second one, and then we'll bounce over to Chris Jackson.
All
You're
right.
on a roll. That was a fantastic
Fired
delivery. You
up.
can't break now.
I also got to mention with Brock Gaylor too. The kid used to ride bulls, so if you're wondering why the kid plays so angry, it's because he was riding bulls. He's toughened up a little bit. And for my second game ball of the night, it's loading right now. But Brady Stowers of Colfax, the Falcons lost this game 29-25 to Marysville, to no fault of Brady Stowers. He hauled in 9 catches for 194 yards and a touchdown for the Falcons. Anytime you're putting up that type of production, that's worthy of a head nod, no matter the result of the game. So Brady Stowers, you get a game ball too. I mean, what more could he have done? 10 catches for 200 yards? I mean, 9 for 194. That is, if you're playing high school fantasy football, that guy won you the week.
Yeah, no, no. And we're going to give game balls to offensive players, defensive stoppers, guys who win games, guys who only have one win, but in a loss. Small schools, large schools. Chris Jackson, who are your two game balls?
Let's go to Manteca High School first, where I was Friday night. A 49-7 absolute trouncing of Central Catholic on the road. 2 straight wins for Manteca over Central Catholic when they hadn't beat them before in the Max Preps era. Nico Juarez, their 3-star running back, has 4 D1 offers, 293 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns on 18 carries. He had one where 3 or 4 Central Catholic linebackers and D linemen are in his face, ready to take him down. He bounces off of him, does a complete 360, runs around, 11-yard gain, trucks a guy at the end, touchdown the next play. That's how tough he is there. O-line was tremendous. And then, speaking of their defense, Jaden Harris, 2 interceptions in that game, a pick six. Their defense, I thought this was a lie when I read their stats. It 100% true. Their first 4 games, their defense had 57 tackles for loss. They hit another double-digit mark in this one, and consider who Manteca's played. Marin Catholic, Cardinal Newman, who they absolutely crushed 40-7 on the road. Central Catholic, who they crushed. Manteca's 5-0. They look like the best team in Division II right now. And then let's go to Levi Ramos of Laguna Creek. Another team that played a tough schedule early on. They had a long trip to Boise at one point this year. They get their first win of the year over the Franklin Wildcats. 196 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns, a 33-19 win. A good first win off the board for Laguna Creek. I know they had our predictions everywhere because we all picked against them. And I think almost all of us picked Wheatland to beat Lincoln. So kudos to all these people for proving us wrong. I love it. I'll print out these predictions and make myself look like an idiot. But kudos.
Well, you're already an idiot.
No,
But
I know.
that's, you're
Exactly.
going to print out something that says idiot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, that's all right. I'm gonna do a game ball for the entire team of the Jesuit Marauders in our Sacramento Bee top 20 rankings. We do a team of the week, and that was our team of the week. Beat Rockland 20-14. That's always a big win. It's always big in the Sierra Foothill League. But this was a Jesuit team that was coming off of a 31-20 loss to Granite Bay. And then they were thin, down 3 offensive starting linemen and down other guys, skill guys, their fastest running back. That usually equates to a defeat when you're playing somebody as muscle bound as Rockland. But Teddy Rios with a late touchdown pass to win it for the Jesuit Marauders. Two defensive stops inside the 5 yard line for Big Red's defense. Marlon Blanton was irked the week before. He was unhappy with the officiating. I think he was just fine with everything here. Tough game back for Jason Adams, who came back from administrative leave as head coach for Rockland. Tremendous coach, we know that. They got to fire it up. They now have lost. The Thunder have now lost 2 games in a row. That doesn't bode well when you're trying to win a league championship. The previous loss was to Folsom. There's no shame there. So it'll be interesting to see how the Thunder bounce back. All right, game balls for players. Tanner McSweeney of West Park of Roseville on homecoming night, 80-yard punt return touchdown, 95-yard interception return touchdown, 38-30 win over Destiny Christian in a Metro League game for West Park. Good thing Tanner McSweeney made the game. I'm going to also give one to Nick Johnson of Oak Ridge. Nothing outlandish statistical in the 21-14 win over Granite Bay for Oak Ridge the other night, but he engineered the game-winning 14-play drive. Nice steady passing, and then afterwards he talks like a leader. He's a transfer from Folsom, and oh, by the way, they're playing Folsom this week, and he's an excellent student. He's got good size, 6'4". He's poised just like his father of the same name, Nick Johnson, who is one of our all-time great baseball players from around here 30 years ago at McClatchy of the Sac City Unified, played 14 big league seasons, smooth hitting designated hitter. And then the son is the same kind of poise. So Nick Johnson, Tanner McSweeney, and the Jesuit Marauders are for our game balls. All right, Jordan, give us a game. We're going to go one time around. And then one more time around in quick order. Give us a game that you're curious about, size it up quickly, and give us a score.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the game that I will be at this Friday night. Where else but Del Oro Granite Bay? We talked about this rivalry. In my opinion, it is one of the best in the area. If you go back and look at a lot of these, statistical games, or if you go back in like the history on Max Preps, I want to say this rivalry series is just about even between these two. It feels like neither team can really get the edge on the other one, and I think this is going to be another slugfest. I mean, they both find ways to win ugly. They both ride behind their defense and their tenacious ground attack. I made the joke because my boss, who you guys all know, Bill Poindexter, our editor, he's out of commission for football this week because he's going to be at Aftershock. And I think this is the football equivalent of a mosh pit right here with this game. Um, both these teams are playing at a championship level, but I think they're kind of both lacking that signature win. So this would be really go a long way for it. And I'm going to go with Granite Bay here, 24-21.
Actually done, sir. And Mosh Pit is right. And Bill Poindexter loves his high school football, but he's a rocker. He's a heavy metal guy. I've known him for years. We worked together for years at the Bee. Tell him that you need a concert review by 10 p.m. that night. A big picture it and also the socioeconomic impact of having a big festival in Sacramento. He probably
I
won't get
agree.
back to you on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris, yeah. Chris Jackson, give us a game and size it up.
First, I just want to know what Bill is like in a mosh pit. Maybe he can get video. Maybe one of your guys can take photos of him. Jordan, you should probably work on that this week and get someone to go out there.
I'll tell you what he's like. He's dangerous in any setting, especially
I
in
feel
mosh pit.
frightened. I feel frightened. So I'm gonna go. This is where I'm actually heading Friday. Solano County, always great football out there in the 707. Vacaville versus Fandon. If you haven't seen a game at Vacaville, it's a heck of an atmosphere. Likely for the Monticello Empire League Championship. As I mentioned earlier, Vacaville's won 6 of the last 8 league crowns. Vanden won a couple of years ago in this standings in this league. They won state last year. Vacaville, though, 4-2, won 4 straight, beating some good teams. El Cerrito was always a great program. They're running the ball. Classic Vacaville, strong in the trenches, pound it down your throat. Dylan Georgeson, Roman Connor Owens, each 380 plus rushing yards. Vanden, though, defending state champs, only one loss, and that loss was at Camp Lindo, always a top Bay Area program, and that was on a game-winning field goal. But 4-1 just beat Rodriguez, coming off a bye. They've got a good resume too, right? That Camp Lindo game was their one loss. They earlier beat a defending NorCal champion out of Pleasanton, Amador Valley. They've got a Sac State commit, Caleb Jones. Talk about a ball hawk, right? 3 interceptions this year. He's also their leading receiver. They've got another DB in nickel, Jaden Marquez Cook, whose father is on the coaching staff, and he's got numerous offers. They've got a 6'3" target on the outside, Kamani Dokes. You've got Josiah Chavez who can cover, who can run, who can catch. I know Vacaville's got some great history in this recently, but I'm going to go Vanden. Vanden gets this win. I think them coming off a bye. It's going to be a great game. I'm going to go 28-24 Vanden.
Excellent. No, this is good. And I have been to a game at Vacaville. They get big flame torches that come up. It's football is a traditional thing for years. Tom Zanino, they call him the godfather there for Vacaville football. He used to wear a big block Z on his hat. He's one of the section's 200 game winners, one of the class guys, and his son-in-law is Mike Papadopoulos, who continues the great run over the years. So it's a family deal there. That should be an excellent game. All right, I'm going to do the game I'm going to cover. Our Sacramento Bee #1 ranked Folsom Bulldogs hosting #2 Oak Ridge of El Dorado Hills. And there's a losing streak that Oak Ridge is eager to end. I think this streak will end sometime in our lifetime, maybe in the next couple of years, maybe even on Friday. If there's a team that can close the gap, I think it's Coach Casey Taylor and the Oak Ridge Trojans. They have all the makings up there of being a great program. You got big enrollment, you got money, you have athletes, you have youth programs, you have junior varsity and freshmen, big numbers, supportive administration, as we mentioned, and athletic director and Eric Cavalier, the former head coach there. So it's there for the taking. And it just takes time when Folsom's been that monster. So there's the winning streak for Folsom is 19 years, 23 consecutive wins over Oak Ridge. That's amazing. And that includes some section championship games, including the last three in Division One at Hughes Stadium. Last year, the regular season game was 14-7 and a half. Folsom. Folsom won 35-7. The key, the X factor, is Ryder Lyons, the five-star quarterback. As great as we've ever seen around here. He runs, he throws. He's just coming off a bye week. I think his ankle's probably just about healed. Folsom is going to unleash him and Jamison Powell. He's just a dynamic, explosive receiver, kickoff return, special teams ace. Can Oak Ridge handle those two guys? If not, it's game over. So I'm going to go with Folsom winning this game. I'm going to go 35-20. I think they're always fiercely fought. Jordan, give us another game. Size it up.
I think another fiercely fought one. We'll call this one the Brawl of the Wild because we've got Bear River, the Bruins visiting the Fighting Zebras of Lincoln High School. I think this one could be what determines the league championship. These two teams, I believe they tied for second. There was two of the three teams that tied for second in the PVL last year. Um, I'm gonna give. I think this one. What's interesting about this? Bear River. I talked to their coach yesterday. He said they set the tone with one of the best practices they've ever had yesterday, and they're locked in on this game. They're 4-2. They're 1-1 the PVL. They just fell to Wheatland. Lincoln just dismantled Wheatland. But guess what? That's a rivalry game, and sometimes in football, when you come off those rivalry wins, you're riding that high a little bit too much, and you can tend to maybe get, I don't not want to say a false sense of confidence because the Zebras deserve all the confidence that they have right now, but be a false sense of security here. This Bear River team is gritty. They're tough. I expect them to bring it and give the Zebras everything that they can handle, but Zebras move in herds, and I think that's enough to stomp out the Bruins here. 31-27 Lincoln.
Tough. Good. The Brawl of the Wild. That's so good. Chris Jackson, size us up.
Let's go down to the 209, the TVL, a big rivalry there. Escalon Houston, this game at Escalon this year. Escalon's won most of these games the last 2 decades. Houston, though, won it last year. One of those just cappers to an excellent 3-year stretch of 3 section titles, all those NorCal championship appearances, and 1 state title. Houston's won 5 of the 6 games. They've lost by 1 score to Ripon Christian, and that's the theme. They're always in these close games. They've won 4 of them by 1 score. They defeated Atwater in a close game. Linden, a team that beat Destiny Christian, they won that in a close game too. They've got a senior running back, Eli Wilbanks, who was Houston through and through. His grandfather was on the first TVL championship team there back in the day. He's averaging over 100 yards per game. They got a 6'4" target going to Fresno State and Bryce McDaniel. Escalon, though, history's on their side. 3-3, yes, but that's another team that's scheduled tough. They played Chavez, Oakdale, all these great teams. They just defeated Hillmar 27-9. They've got a quarterback who's dynamic, Logan Huber. 10 touchdown passes, 817 yards there, another 240 rushing yards. But I like this Houston group. I think Houston wins another one-score ball game. Let's make that their sixth win overall and their fifth one-score win. Jordan, you said 24-21 for a game earlier. I like that theme. I'm going to go 24-21 for this one.
Good score.
Imagine. Yeah, yeah, exactly right. Always go with that. 21-20. How many times I do that? It's going to be a good game, 21-20. Could you imagine if we were Grumps one day, the Three Stooges podcast Grump Hour, and we just started picking games? It's going to be 58 nothing. Don't go, stay home, clean your gutters, complain at home. This is not worth going. And we just piled on, the garbage game of the week. Don't go, avoid it, throw tomatoes at them as you drive by the stadium. We don't do that, but anyways, and the other thing, as I defend all of us, we don't lose games. Every game that we pick is sound, whether it's in Gold Country Media, in the Sacramento Bee, or West Coast Prep. It's sound. We're not the ones missing tackles, dropping passes, so it's on the kid. We're gonna just blame the kids. No, we can't guess them all. That's why we have fun with it. But it's like, hey, we need more film work. All right, I'm gonna close this out with a Delta League duel in the Oak Grove Unified School District, the Pleasant Grove Eagles taking on the Monterey Trail Mustangs. First year coach and Sam Cole, excellent coach. He was a defensive coach for the Folsom Bulldogs when they were winning state championships. He was on the defensive staff under Troy Taylor for a couple of years at Sacramento State. He's a first-time head coach. Great energy, great intensity, and a sleeping giant program there with big enrollment and all those good things. And then TJ Ewing is a founding coach at Monterey Trail. School opened in 2004. Monterey Trail, by the way, Jordan, is playing Rockland in an unusual non-league game in mid-October. What a fantastic brawl that'll be. So that's kind of fun. So always doing well with their scheduling. Odie Jefferson is another terrific running back for Monterey Trail. They're fast, they're physical, they don't have the largest rosters, but this is going to be for the Delta League Championship. I think Monterey Trail just a little bit more experienced and will win this game. I'm going to go 35-30. No. 24-21. Monterey Trail will win this game.
Third time's the charm. So does that third game that's picked 24-21, does it actually end 24-21?
Yeah, who knows? Who
If it
knows?
doesn't, if it does, Joe, you can throw tomatoes at us.
I love that.
So we got a bet.
When it's tomatoes, if you've ever been pelted by a tomato, it explodes on impact. Not that I've ever been pelted by a tomato. I know that you've been at Sac High on the sidelines, Chris Jackson, and people have wanted to see your credential. People who are grumpy about something,
Yeah,
and
it
they
was
probably thought, but with your snarkiness, they wanted to unleash produce your
yeah,
way.
luckily it was one person was upset and everybody else was very supportive and everything else. People get angry, but I didn't have a tomato thrown at me, right?
Yeah, and
Well, there
Jordan,
too many times, so I can't complain.
yeah, but we complain anyways. That's right. And then Jordan, you're a man of the people, but I'm sure people want to hurl produce your way too. Just
Uh,
just
uh,
because he's there. There's the hater. There he is.
I've had my fair share. My first year with the Auburn Journal, I remember it was the year after COVID, and I want to say that was a Placer team that faced a gauntlet of a schedule. They started 0-4. Bear River had like its worst start in the last couple of years. Colfax was on kind of a down start. And I was sitting there like, I'm going to get run out of town by these people before league even starts. I get to town and all these teams have uncharacteristic bad starts. All those teams ended up having good seasons. I think two or three of them won their league titles. But it's one of those. Sometimes the reporter gets blamed for it. Sometimes we get the words hurled at us for reporting news. I always said I had one person I reported something of a league movement thing a while ago, and someone goes, sounds like you found out something you shouldn't know, and I'm like, yeah, that's the role of a reporter. And but yeah, we'll get those two. And if anyone wants to see what a tomato does on impact, Chris Jackson has kindly volunteered. So whatever game Chris is going to be at, bring your tomatoes. The more rotten, the better. He's probably going to be wearing a white shirt. He wants you to pelt him. That
I
means
will not wear this shirt when I'm there.
Well,
he's lying. He will.
and Jordan, I think you're exactly right. Just to refresh, he's going to be in Solano County, stalking the sidelines, getting in the way, being out of position, being difficult and truculent, and all of those things, and challenging the coaches and challenging the referees. So yeah, go to the farmers market and get the worst produce and seek out Chris Jackson. So
Great idea.
he'll Yeah, he's like, hey, there we go. Hey, we're gonna sign off with this. We've all had snarky emails. Maybe this will be a podcast topic at some point. What are some of the rudest emails you get? I always love the ones when the subject line says "shame on you," and shame on anybody if they haven't tuned into us. Shame on anybody who hasn't followed Chris Jackson on social media or Jordan Georgeson or me on social media. We try to have fun with this, and we hope that people will listen and watch and say, I didn't know that. Oh, that was interesting. Oh, I'm going to get some produce. Anyways, Joe Davidson, Chris Jackson, Jordan Georgeson. Guys, you're the best. We'll see you out there. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in.